Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this talk that has been organized and hosted by the National Union of Metalworkers of South Africa. We want to welcome you and give you a warm welcome on this very, very chilly day, and to thank every single one of you for making the effort to come out on this day. We also want to appreciate the presence of various NUMSA regions. Ekurhuleni, are you here? Viva Ekurhuleni, viva!
Viva!
Hlanganani, are you here?
Viva!
Viva Hlanganani, viva!
Viva!
JC Bears and Sidibeng are still on the way. That is my understanding. Thank you so much, comrades. Okay, thank you so much, comrades. So, we have now begun, we are now going to officially begin our session this morning. Before I introduce some of the people that some of you know here, I just want to take a moment to just apologize to all of you for the late start. Unfortunately, we had very serious issues caused by load shedding. Our backup couldn't begin, but we've sorted out some of those problems. So we really appreciate your patience, and of course, as I said, we appreciate your presence. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the media here this morning. We've got SABC here this morning. Viva SABC, viva!
Viva!
We've also got BRICS TV also here this morning. It's a channel that's dedicated to BRICS as a region. Viva to BRICS, viva!
Viva!
And of course, we've got our own platforms which are streaming live this morning. As I speak to you today, there are many Facebook pages that are currently connected to the session, some of them exceeding more than 1 million followers. So, you know, as we say, more power to the working class. This struggle will be televised. Amanda! My name is Pagamile Majola. I am the national spokesperson for NUMSA. NUMSA is the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, the largest trade union in South Africa. And part of our agenda as a trade union is to promote socialism, to promote the unity of the working class, to promote the end of the hegemony of the US. We denounce imperialism, we denounce capitalism, and this is precisely why we organize this discussion today. I will be the facilitator of the discussion today, where we will be having this very interesting conversation around BRICS, the BRICS Summit, which many of you, I'm sure you're aware, you've been hearing about it in the media. I'm sure some of you are asking questions. What is the significance of this BRICS Summit? Why is everybody talking about BRICS? And this is why we're having this conversation. And we hope it will be the beginning of many, many more conversations to come on this very important topic, and particularly on South Africa's role in BRICS. Our topic this morning is, are there global alternatives to a unipolar world? That is the question we're asking this morning. Are there alternatives to a unipolar world system? A world system which, as you know, has been dominated by the United States of America, has been dominated by NATO, has been led by the West. And this is why we felt it was very important to have this discussion this morning. Before I introduce my guests, I would like to just take a moment to give a special mention to some of the leadership that we have here. Comrade Tembega of the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party. Could you please just stand up and greet the comrades? Is she?
On power!
On power!
NUMSA, viva! 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 Viva!
Comrade Tembega is a member of the provincial leadership, and she's also a member of the Central Committee. Comrade Vashna Jagannath, the DGS is also here. Can you greet? Also from SRWP.
Viva SOWP!
Thank you so much. And of course, as I said, we've got many of our friends online from different organizations that are aligned to NUMSA, aligned to this cause that we are promoting in South Africa. So to get back to the topic, behind me, I have the General Secretary of NUMSA, Comrade Irvin, whom some of you know, who's been and next to him, we have Comrade Dr. Fred Membe, who is very famous. He's a famous journalist. He has won many awards for the excellent work he's done as a media practitioner, but he's also the president of the Socialist Party of Zambia. If you can please just stand up and greet the cameras. Thank you. Thank you so much, Comrade. And we thought if we have both these people here this morning so that we can engage on this topic, we can, when we walk out of this room, have a very enriching and engaging discussion and a debate about some of the important issues that are going to come up from this debate. Now, I know for some of you, if you've been watching some of the headlines locally in South Africa, the BRICS Summit, as you know, obviously is going to start in August. But the main topic of discussion for many people seems to be around Putin, Vladimir Putin, and whether South Africa will arrest Vladimir Putin because there's an ICC warrant out for him. And part of why we feel it is important for us to have these discussions is because, first of all, this whole idea that anyone could arrest a leader, let alone a leader of a nuclear power like Russia, is bizarre, ridiculous, insane, and we reject it with the contempt it deserves. There is no way we are going to arrest Putin, and we should not arrest Putin, because arresting Putin would spark a third world war. And this is precisely why we want to have this discussion, because we need to start having conversations about what is this BRICS Summit going to be about? What are some of the issues that BRICS is going to be debating? There is a move to distract the local population here in South Africa from engaging on this question. BRICS, for example, one of the things that they're going to be debating is whether to expand BRICS, whether to incorporate other members like Venezuela, members like Saudi Arabia. What would that mean in terms of establishing what we've been talking about, a multipolar world as opposed to a unipolar world? Those of us in the global South who are sick and tired of the dominance of imperialism have been hungry for alternatives. And it is really about time that members of the working class, that members of the global South were active participants in discussions about what kind of world order do we want to see going forward. The strengthening and the consolidation of BRICS is a challenge to the power of the West. It's a challenge, it's a direct challenge to the US, especially considering that one of the discussions that BRICS will be engaging on is the possibility of a BRICS currency. Are we not sick and tired of the dominance of the dollar?
We are indeed.
So why are we not having these conversations in South Africa? We are the ones who are going to be hosting this very important summit. And yet we are being deliberately distracted from engaging in these very important issues. They want us to focus on the nonsensical idea of arresting a world leader, which we will not accept. So this is the reason why we think it's important that particularly an organization like NUMSA should be the one to sort of set the tone for how we should engage on this issue. And so, having said that, I would like to invite the NUMSA General Secretary, Comrade Irvin, to take the podium and give us the opening address and also give us his reflections on this topic. Viva, Comrade Jim, viva!
Viva!
Manda, Comrades, good morning. I think that there are many comrades that PACs have left out that I've noticed. The first one is Comrade Ryan, that is sitting in front. Can we clap hands for Comrade Brian?
Viva NUMSA, viva.
Comrade Brian is a veteran of NUMSA. He has led the Global Federation for years. I also notice a member of the CPD, Comrade Irvin, among us, sitting somewhere at the back.
Viva NUMSA, viva.
I'm going to be very concise. I can also say that I'm going to be very concise. Because I think we've got a key main speaker from the Fred to speak to you. General secretaries of revolutionary unions are supposed to be the tribune of the people, which is a very heavy task because you must be an all-rounder. NUMSA is not a manga union. That's why we're calling for all workers across various sectors of the economy, that if you are not a NUMSA member, you are disorganized. And that workers must join the union in numbers. We must defend the union because the union is permanently under attack. This is not a yellow union. This is a revolutionary union. This is a union when it was not fashionable. It has always consistently played a very strategic role, that of combining shop floor struggles with community struggles. We're very clear as a union that what we have not won in the base, which is the economy, you cannot win it in superstructure, which is politics. This is one union that for years now, for more than 3 decades, we were very clear that the reason why we are in a crisis, such as rolling blackouts, such as poverty, unemployment, and inequalities, we failed at the level of a liberation movement that led us to ensure that we affirm into ownership and control our people who are economically marginalized, landless, and dispossessed into the very same base that I'm talking about, into the economy. And we're very clear that if we would have succeeded to do that, we would have tilted the balance of forces. We would have changed power relations in society. And we are having this discussion today about BRICS, about the war, about where the world is today in terms of geopolitics. And we're doing that because we constitute an advanced detachment of the working class. We are the industrial proletariat. We are one union that has got a vision that says from each according to its needs, to each according to its ability. We are a union that is very clear that workers and the working class must set aside all their prejudice and unite. In our vision, in our economic vision, we say we want to end economic exploitation. Now, I have been given a very difficult topic to ensure that we create an atmosphere to launch this debate. By the way, the union is going to be doing this every weekend. A shop steward that is lazy is going to be removed in the works. All shop stewards should be part of the rolling discussions, debates that will be moving around the country, where we will be having these discussions and debates as a union, together with our Socialist Revolutionary Workers Party, the SRW. The time to play is over. And I'm given this difficult debate, which I've chosen. It's very strange that I've chosen to preface it with Nelson Mandela. As your computer is failing me, which I chose to preface it with Nelson Mandela, who was very clear when it comes to this debate in relation to geopolitics, what should be our attitude. Are saying down with complacence and laziness, down. And I'm saying I'm prefacing my thoughts, and I promise my very short input. I'm very short to this today. I won't commit with you. I'm saying one of the things that the late President Mandela would have said in the context of geopolitics and the history of struggle that we wage to liberate ourselves in this country and the critical role of international solidarity. He once said in US, in a big stage of the world, that one of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies. Our attitude towards any country is determined by the attitude of that country to our struggle. Yasser Arafat, Colonel Gaddafi, Fidel Castro support our struggle to the hip. There is no reason whatsoever why we should have any hesitation about hailing their commitment to human rights as they are being demanded in South Africa. They do not support the anti-apartheid struggle only in rhetoric. They are placing resources at our disposal for us to win the struggle. That is the position. We are living today under very difficult conditions with the eruption of this war between Russia and Ukraine. There are people who want to dictate to us what must we say, what must we think. There are people who want to constrain our movement. There are people who are openly saying, Putin, if he put his foot on this land of ours, he should be arrested. I think Parks have already said we reject that with contempt it deserves. NUMSA and all its catalyst formations led by the SRWP have a clarity of thought. That of hosting our comrade and the brother, Comrade Fred, a progressive journalist, a lawyer and accountant, and president of the Socialist Party of Zambia. To do what? To come and stimulate debate on all vexing questions that kept Mother Africa at the bottom of the food chain. The most urgent message for NUMSA, which must vibrate across the world, is that the current NATO unleashed war against Russia, presented as a Russia-Ukraine war, when in fact it is a proxy war led by the empire, the United States of America, must end. We are very reasoned as metal workers without a shadow of doubt that it is correct, it is scientific, that is, it is unnecessary and unacceptable war, and it must end. This war is no good, regardless of whether you are a Russian, you are Ukrainian, you are an American, or from the rest of Europe, particularly for working class. It only benefits those countries whose economy is centered on military armaments. One of those countries is the USA. I must be blunt, in my capacity representing metal workers, that there is something strange about USA, the empire. That even when they are not fighting a war, even when they are not directly fighting a war, it will be them who supply the planes to fight the war, accompanied by their media houses calling to escalate that war. This was the case in the First World War until the more recent war in Yemen. This is a country that has taught us different moralities. No, Americans, they taught us different moralities. This is a country that has been involved in countries where they have unilaterally overthrown the state and replaced it with their own profits. This is a country that drops bombs in a country. And when we ask a simple question, What about women and children? They say, don't worry, it's collateral damage. So human rights, the rights of children, the rights of women, when they choose, becomes secondary. It becomes a collateral damage. What is even more outstanding to us is the recent past. The more NATO led by the US announced they will give more planes and weapons to Ukraine, the more Ukraine people suffer and they get killed. In the recent past, I saw Ukraine losing their life recently. A big dam, I don't know, it's only me who's watching this film that is being played every day. There is this president from Ukraine. He's like he's hired to coordinate that more Ukrainians must die. No, there's a problem. You can't say you are in a war which clearly you can't win. Why? Why are you suffocating the people of the world? First, this war has imposed on all of us inflationary pressures. It is the working class that is dying in this war. It is the working class blood that gets spilled. It is the working class that continues to be the victims of any war that is being fought. It is the hands of the working class. Why it does not make sense that the logical thing is that this war must end and it should have ended yesterday. This important discussion is taking place against already deepening structural crisis of capitalism, whose roots can be traced to backward and primitive neoliberal policies. The South African working class has been rendered to be paupers at the back of racist structural apartheid economic path, which has consistently kept them economically marginalized, landless, and dispossessed. Today, we're talking about them as victims of unrecoverable levels of deindustrialization, whose direct negative spin-off is poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The World Inequality Report states that the poorest half of the global population barely owns any wealth at all, possessing just 2% of the total wealth. In contrast, the richest 10% of the global population own 76% of all wealth in the world. This is the status quo that the US and NATO allies are deepening and worsening through these global inflationary pressures that are triggered by this reckless, unnecessary war. Hashtag, the war must end. We are clear that NATO must withdraw its forces and the West must stop sending weapons. This war is criminal. It is a disaster for all the people of the world, but it is extremely worse for all of us in Africa who are in the bottom of the food chain as a result of apartheid, colonialism, and imperialism. Comrade Fred Membe is talking to us today when our country is under siege from the current rolling blackouts. We couldn't start here today. We're going to start at 10. That has been the case everywhere in every factory. Workers are losing their jobs, they are losing their bonuses, they are being retrenched, companies are closing. So having listened to a wrong advice because of a government that have listened to a wrong advice and allow itself to be bribed by the very USA, World Bank, and European Bank, that we must not touch coal for a mere change of $8.5 billion and other loans that are being thrown to the National Treasury. These engineered rolling blackouts, because the government simply decided not to drive quality maintenance of power stations. Comrades, we know what needed to be done. All what needed to be done was to continue with quality maintenance of power stations so that we can have 75% EAF, energy availability factor, and we could stop the current rolling blackout. Those who used to support 5 to 6 extended families, their economic opportunities in terms of job security, and those who depended on them are completely ruined. In South Africa, if you work, you support your immediate family, usually it will be only one person in a household where you support the whole family dependent on him, but also you support 5 to 6 extended families. The levels of poverty, unemployment, and inequalities in this country, we have no comparison with how people are suffering. And with this rolling blackouts, it means we are being further deepened into a crisis. In this front, NUMSA has been very firm, regardless of chaos that has been imposed by those who want to write fake, false books like Irvin, that we are a sovereign country. As a country, we have a right to decide on a proper energy mix that can suit our condition to power our communities and our economy. We say we're a sovereign country. We don't need anybody to dictate on us. We must decide what kind of an energy mix that is suitable to power our communities, to power our economy. We are very firm against NGOs who have been and just transition that must guarantee job security. That the movement from fossil fuel to renewables must happen at a pace and at a cost our country can afford. We remain vehemently opposed to an agenda that calls on South Africa not to touch coal, when the baseload of the very West, led by the United States of America and US, is on gas, is on nuclear. In fact, whilst we are told don't touch coal, tax loads and loads, the demand has gone up. Our coal live in our country about 700%. The question is, where is this coal going? If we must stay in darkness, we must not touch it, but it must go to Europe, it must go to the United States of America. And I think one country that have done very well in this front that didn't care about climate goals commitment, it prioritized its people and its economy. At the back of the fight, Russia remember, I was saying that fight must end. There's no need to try and win us. In fact, NUMSA must call an agent meeting with the American ambassador in South Africa first. He's been trying to invite us in many gatherings. We must invite ourselves to American embassy. All of us, can we go to American embassy? Can we clap hands that we go there? We're not going there for politics. We're not going there to investigate which army and what. We're going there to communicate one message, that instead of organizing weapons of attacking and to kill people, the simplest thing that must do, NATO must get out of Ukraine and the war must end, and it must end immediately. America sent chickens here. And you can't answer. America, we're eating chickens from America in terms of alcohol. But we want Metalworkers. Food market. Yes. Why should we subjected to the ruling of ALGOA, which is beneficiary to US, which is beneficiary to South Africa in terms of jobs? Because there is this overzealous that America want to kill. America want to use its mighty bloody war that is unnecessary. So we're very firm that this war must end. Because our attitude is that we should release all energies of people of the world to trade, to live in peace, to love one another. So we reject this war, comrades. In whatever happened, we reject this war, and Comrade Fred will unpack that for us. So what is more sophisticated and criminal with the current arrangement, for instance, on the rolling blackout, is the fact that if you sit down as a country, we will not recover from this. One of the things that is being done slowly, as they close coal power stations, which we reject the closure of coal power stations. But there's something even more dangerous than that. As they close them, they replace them with IPPs in the grid that are owned by private sector. Basically, what is happening is privatization of our country's energy provision. And once the private sector captures energy which is supposed to be a public good, we must forget that we will ever be able to recover as a country. It was not a mistake that Afrikaners built ESCO. It was not a mistake that Afrikaners built ISCO. They wanted to make sure that they power the country with a reliable supply of energy to deliver a competitive electricity tariff so that we must drive manufacturing and industrialization. Of course, Afrikaners were doing it for the Afrikaner folk. There was the Calabar Act, which was making sure that all Afrikaners, they are prioritized when it comes to jobs. It was called job reservations. At a time now, when we're supposed to be delivering jobs for everybody, both black and white, then we are handing over such a strategic asset, such a strategic asset such as EXCOM into the hands of the private sector. Yeah, no, we just complete our Comrades, the political and ideological significance of Comrade Fred's presence today, who's our keynote speaker, is that when it was not fashionable to give solidarity, when people who claimed they were prepared to give us solidarity against brutal racist apartheid regime, we know that there were few who stood with us to declare apartheid as a crime against humanity. At the center of that solidarity, it was our comrade in the frontline state, led by Zambia, under the leadership of KK Kaunda. It was Cuba that gave us all kinds of support and the revolutionary military forces that this continent needed to fight colonialism, imperialism, and repressive regimes in the Battle of Putuquanamba in Angola. Where revolutionary forces secured victory, Cuba took home nothing except dead bodies of its reliable soldiers. That is why NUMSA remains firm in saying no to racism. We say no to xenophobia. We say no to gender-based violence. We say no to misogynist. We say no to homophobia and all other backward, primitive forms of oppression. We are non-racial and we are for a progressive modern class world where humanity wins against greed of the capitalists. That is why NUMSA is firm that we must not only demand for the end of this war, because we demand for the end of this war because we love peace and love, because out of love comes life. We want to take this opportunity to make a clarion call to all people of the world that we must not just say, hashtag the war must end. We are equally demanding that in the interest of peace and humanity, which must win the day against capitalist greed of imperialism, which never stop to oppress and exploit, spilling the blood of humanity. We have no choice but to call on the USA to equally end the trade sanctions against the 30% of the population of the world. Here we're talking about the sanctions, trade sanctions that are imposed to the people of Cuba, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Iran, Bolivia, and many other countries who continue to suffer these trade sanctions. Enough is enough. Netanyahu of Israel must end the racist Zionist extermination campaign against the Palestinian people. We must support the Palestinian people to overthrow the settler colonial occupation of their land. We must support the Palestinian struggle to live in dignity and peace in historic Palestine. NUMSA was there even when BRICS was focused and targeted as a contested terrain by the very same right-wing forces who dispatch money to NGOs and individual academics whose mission and task all the time is to undermine the revolutionary role of the working class, to lead itself as a class for itself. Why BRICS has been a target? Despite progressive government who are supposed to put together a revolutionary agenda as an alternative to what we have described above, is because all the time the enemy camp has not just pursued a mission to making the voice of the working class in BRICS countries and targeted the very countries that form part of BRICS to sabotage the revolutionary agenda. Through their promotion of class harmony in a class-divided society, so that the status quo of colonialism, imperialism, and unipolar world remains. This agenda is firmly against multipolar world, where there must be an agenda on who send a stand sovereignty and international solidarity that advances where development and modernization of our country is not defined on the image of capitalist and imperialist systems which oppress and exploit the people of the world. Where all people of the world are hypnotized to accept that it is normal to kill women and children by dropping bombs whenever you like, and you call this collateral damage. Our perspective of the coming BRICS Summit as a progressive revolutionary force, and our vision is that it is an opportunity to break with the failed, disastrous Washington consensus that has kept the working class and the people of Africa at the bottom of the food chain, by asserting the importance of every country driving an independent program of development or an agenda that will benefit its country's people. In essence, our view is that BRICS Summit should be the platform from where concrete commitment is made to replace limitations of a unipolar world, possibility of multipolarity. This does not mean a break with the economic system of US and Western Europe, but rather demand that the many countries in the global South, which have been held back by imperialism, can become centers of gravity in the creation of a more equitable distribution of development around the world. The world will be a better place that they will succeed to release all energies of the people, where humanity, peace, equality, dignity of peoples, regardless of their country of origin, become the vision of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Comrade Irvin. Jim, thank you for that very interesting input, and especially finding a very creative way to tie in the load shedding crisis that we're experiencing here in South Africa. You must be aware, comrades, I'm sure some of you are, that the crisis of lack of energy is not just something that is restricted to South Africa, but other parts of the continent are also experiencing. And the question we should ask ourselves is, why suddenly should it be Africa that should give up its right to industrialize? Africa must give up its coal. Africa should now rely on intermittent renewable energy. Germany has got extremely high levels of renewable energy, but it still powers its economy with coal, with nuclear, with gas. But South Africans must sit in the dark in the name of a so-called just transition. Clearly, this transition is not just. Clearly, this transition is once again designed to benefit wealthy capitalists overseas at our expense, so that we never get to a point where we can free ourselves as a continent from poverty, inequality, and unemployment. So I want to thank you for that. And I know some of you want to engage in what Comrade Jim has raised. We are going to give time at the end of this session for you to ask questions or to make comments. So if you can just please hold on to your comments or onto your questions, they will definitely be around at the end of the session. We will be able to engage the speakers. Having said that, thank you, Jim, Comrade Jim, also for opening the way to introduce our guests today. Comrade Fred, we are honored to have you here this morning. If you can please take the podium and address us. Thank you.
Greetings, comrades. Comrade Irvin has made my work much easier. He has said almost all that needs to be said. He has explained all that needed to be explained. This world order, this world economic order, political order, social order, cultural order is not benefiting us. We are not benefiting from this order. We have been on this path for more than 500 years. For more than 500 years at the service of others, enabling others to live better, while our conditions deteriorate. We have been on this path to Calvary for too long. We have carried this heavy cross for too long. When we are about to reach the top, we go down, rolling back. We have been pushing the border for too long, rolling back all the time we are near the top. We have fought our liberation wars. We have resisted for too long. When we gain some mileage, when we gain some victory, that is also taken away from us. When we construct a new leadership for ourselves, that leadership is toppled. When we gain our independence, our liberation, that independence, that liberation is taken away from us. Puppets are imposed on us through all forms of impositions, coup d'etats, assassinations, bogus elections, manipulated electoral processes, and puppets and staff. We were colonized by companies. The Dutch East Indian Company, the British South African Company, Anglo, and so on. We fought our liberation battles. We fought our Chimurengas. We won partial victories. But today, those we defeated, fully or partially, are back again. We install their new rule through puppets of all forms. Now they have even created the foundations. Mining corporations have created foundations whose sole purpose is to create leaders for us. Support puppets, install them. They are supporting puppets in this country, in South Africa. They are supporting puppets in Zimbabwe. They have installed puppets in Zambia. They are supporting puppets in Uganda. Why should a mining corporation be interested in who rules a country, who governs a country, who leads the country? This is simply because they don't want to relinquish control over these countries, which they once controlled directly, and they have been controlling indirectly, and they want to continue controlling forever and ever. Amen. But we know that where there is a crucifixion, there must also be a resurrection. This world order that is not working for us, we cannot continue with it. A few years ago, 5 of our leaders for our governments from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa came together, gathered some BRICS, and created a BRICS strategy. Today, we need more BRICS to create a bigger and much bigger BRICS structure. If we should have any hope of getting out of this order that is not beneficial to us. Comrade Irvin said, the summit or the meeting that is coming for the BRICS in August has been receiving only publicity about whether President Putin will come here or not here, whether he will be arrested when he comes here or he will go to scot-free.
Bluetooth disconnected.
This should not be our debate. President Putin and the Russian people were for us, were with us when we were fighting to liberate ourselves. Against who? Against them. They were not here. And Putin should be arrested on African soil, in Southern Africa, in South Africa. It will never happen. It won't happen. They are dreaming. They are asking for an impossibility. There's no way the South African people, as I know them, will allow President Putin to be arrested here. Some are even suggesting that the conference or the meeting, the summit, should be taken elsewhere. Why should it be taken elsewhere? We need it here in our regions. And it should take place in our region, and it will take place in our region. And President Putin will attend. I don't see the African National Congress-led government arrest Putin. I don't see the thousands and thousands of workers, South African workers, who are South Africans, allow that. It won't happen. There are many criminals that we are not calling for their arrests. George Bush is still there. How many did he kill in Iraq and other places? Tony Blair still comes here freely. Who has ever called for his arrest for the thousands he killed in Iraq and other places? President Clinton also killed. Who has called for his arrest? We are not fools. We won't be fooled. They have taken us for granted for too long. It is time that it stops. We are also human beings with a sense of dignity and some intelligence. We can see things for ourselves. We can analyze things for ourselves and come to our own conclusions. And our conclusion today is the current world economic order, the current world political order is not working for us. We need our own alternative. And the BRICS offers us this alternative. Instead of discussing the many challenges our people face that the BRICS is trying to address, the focus is on the arrest of Putin. We have energy deficiencies, serious energy deficiencies in this region, because the energy development of this region was there to satisfy a few mining corporations' interests or needs, and some privileged racial groups who had access to electricity. And because of that, they developed electricity in a narrow way. They thought the electricity they generated was enough. Now more and more of our people in Zambia, in Angola, in Congo, in Namibia, in Botswana, in South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe need access to electricity. We need the BRICS order, the BRICS arrangement to help us deal with this issue. Even if we start transporting small or exporting small surpluses here and there, there's a small surplus from Mozambique, we send it to South Africa. There's a small surplus in Zambia, we send to South Africa. It won't work. We need a much more coordinated, a much more broader outlook to energy. And that energy that we're going to develop, it should be developed on our terms, in accordance with our needs, in accordance with our possibilities. We never dictated to them how they developed. They used us actually to develop. It is time for us to determine the way we develop. It's not going to be business as usual. Time for revolutionary change is needed. The world cannot continue to be divided between slave masters and slaves. We were slaves for a long time. We are still slaves in a different way. We need a world without slaves. We need a world based on solidarity, equality, and respect for each other. This is not the world we are getting. They are today celebrating, today focusing on so much on the President Putin. They did not care when that criminal, that assassin, who 10 years ago or 30 years ago assassinated our leader. They didn't care about him getting out of prison. Yet he's a worse criminal who could have set this country in a bigger and bigger flames if the leadership of the African National Congress was not clear about the immediate and long-term objectives of their struggle. Comrades, the world is changing. A world dominated by one imperial power is no longer sustainable. We have lived under a bipolar world. We thought it was bad. Today, we have experienced what it is to live in a unipolar world dominated by the United States in all forms, politically, economically, militarily, and so on. We know what we've endured. We know what this world order has given us, and it has not given us. We cannot continue on this path. A path where only what they want prevails. If they want you not to touch coal, you don't touch coal. If they want you to support their war somewhere else, you have to support their war. even if they never fight in your wars, in your battles, they never fought with us. We have fought their wars, they have never fought our wars. We fought for them in the Second World War, we fought for them in the First World War. These were their wars. They were not there in our wars of liberation. They were not with us at the Battle of Venezuela. They were not with us in the battle against the Portuguese in Angola, in Mozambique, in Cape Verde, in Guinea-Bissau. They were not with us in our liberation struggle in our first and second Chimurenga in Zimbabwe. Today, they want to tell the people of Zimbabwe they should be ruled by their puppets, funded by Anglo-American Corporation through the Prentice Foundation. Yes, our liberators have made mistakes, many mistakes. They have made many errors. They have not done everything the right way. But that is not enough reason to replace them with puppets of imperialism, puppets or agents of mining transnational operations. It would be a huge mistake. There is a debate here whether the ANC will get the majority or not. And there are people who are already preparing for a tier government here. It will not happen. Whatever our differences, when a lion enters the village, you forget about your differences. Whether you had accused each other of witchcraft, of this and that, when the lion is in the village, forget about that and face the lion. When you have killed it, then you can come and address those issues that you brought. For now, our main objective is to defend our liberation. Whatever our weaknesses, and there are many weaknesses, and we should not lose objective of that. We can never hand over power that we died to imperialism again, or insurgents. We must be able to distinguish the mistakes of our comrades, the mistakes of our friends, the mistakes of our allies, from the actions of our enemies. Sometimes it's very easy. The mistakes of your ally, the weaknesses of your allies, your comrades, for the actions of the enemies. Let's not make that mistake. Let's not give back power to those we got through protracted struggles, in which so many of our people, so many of our fellow comrades died. These are the people we were fighting yesterday. Today they are pretending to be with us. But their actions show a very, very different pattern. They simply want to use us again. They have used us for more than 500 years. Let's put an end to that. It can't be business as usual. There is a lot to say. I can be here for an hour or two, but we came for discourse. Discourse is not just listening to one person. Discourse entails this one speaks, that one speaks, that one speaks, and this one answers. Let's have discourse. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fred, for that wonderful input and for reminding us at the end of the day, who are our class enemies? And ultimately, that is the question we must always ask. Whenever you are approached, whenever there is a narrative, as there is currently a dominant narrative playing itself out in the mainstream media in South Africa at the moment, those who are calling for the BRICS Summit to be shifted, for Putin to be arrested. The question as members of the working class that we must always ask ourselves is, in whose class interest? Who will benefit from this? And at the end of the day, how do they benefit from disrupting BRICS? Well, they benefit from preventing us from uniting. That's how they benefit. And these are the reasons why we have to have these conversations. And so I want to thank you once again, Comrade Fred, and also, of course, thank you, Comrade Jim, for your very interesting input. And now open up to the floor, because this is the purpose of this discussion. We want to hear from you, comrades. What are your thoughts? What are your views? Is there any input that you want to make? And I'm holding the mic, and of course, I'm ready to receive any hands if anybody would like to make any comments. I see you, Comrade Vashna.
Thanks, comrades. That was really interesting and very useful. I think for me, I just want to make 3 points that tie into what Comrade Fred and Comrade Jim were speaking about. I think the BRICS moment really allows us a new moment in history for us to undo the unipolar world that we've been suffering under since the fall of the Berlin Wall. I mean, one of the main things that we need to understand is the United States government is no one's friend. Since the fall of the Berlin Wall till today, they've been involved in 14 wars of aggression, which they have led, and hundreds of covert operations. 978,000 people killed in Afghanistan and Yemen, 1 million Iraqis killed, 38 million people displaced in wars caused by the United States government. On the African continent, there are 29 US military bases. They don't want Putin to come here for a conference. We should be telling them they must remove their military bases from our continent. That affects our sovereignty. I mean, the reason why we can't do anything about ESCOM is because we've got military bases of the United States government, which think of nothing to destroy people. If you look at what's happened to Libya, if you look at what they've done in Iraq, in Yemen, in Syria, they do not care. And I think that's absolutely important. The last time on this continent we were able to make a substantive change and throw off colonialism was in the 1960s, 70s, and 50s, when we had a non-aligned movement, which the BRICS is in a similar vein to a non-aligned movement, a multipolar world. We should really be supporting this initiative, and we should have the power, and we should mobilize ourselves to be able to stand up to them. Because the more of us get together, then the less of a unipolar world we have, and the more we can determine our own path and our own lives. We have to understand it's difficult. When you decide to do so, when you liberate yourself, they kill your leaders. They kill people like Patrice Lumumba. They kill people like Amilcar Cabral. They kill people like Chris Hani. So this happens all the time. We need to make sure that we are organized ourselves. The BRICS Summit seems like something far. Comrades, when we're sitting in the dark, we might not even be able to see it because there won't be any TVs on. But the fact of the matter is that that summit, that event, is a very vital event that can shape a lot of things, not just this course, but make real change in our country. Thank you.
And I do love that she's already picked up on one of the debates one of the demands that perhaps we should be making. And I think even in this discussion, we should start to formulate our demands. What are our demands as members of the Global South? As this BRICS Summit is coming here, what do we want? One of the demands, for example, should be for the US to remove its military bases. Surely that is some form of imperialism when some country puts its army base in your country. What the hell is that? So these are some of the things we need to start reversing. Anybody else who wants to make a comment, ask a question? Thank you, comrade.
Comrades, hearing what Comrade Jim speaking, it made me recall what the said about this issue of BRICS. When Obama said, if you are not going to unite as Africans today, as the lion has entered the village, we are doomed to fail. For centuries, our aim in forms of basic and ways of life. But we have, can I?
Comrade, I'm just going to ask you to come to the front. The front is getting distorted. Anyone who wants to make a comment, ask a question, I recognize your hand, Comrade, you're next. Please come to the front and make your comment for the sake of the sound.
Thank you. As I was saying, I recall the words of Ngwane Nkuruma when he called the first gathering of this nature of Pan-Africans, calling all African leaders together. Joshua Nkomo was there. And he said, if we are going to fail to unite today, I quote, because the lion is in the village, we need to put our differences aside. We have relied for years on the enemy to feed us with water, the food that we eat, the medicine that we take, even the diseases that we have. They are giving us to us, they are feeding us. And this should not be only a gatherings of our leaders with different regalias, but it should be about the lives of Africans. Our life matters, and it's been centuries now been divided by the system that does not work for us. It's been centuries being divided by a culture that does not work for us. It's been centuries being divided by the media that they use as the most powerful tool to divide us. The journey is not about what have we not achieved, but it's a lifestyle that they have created to sustain themselves that we should copy from them, the imperialists. But reality, the fact of the matter is that we don't need them complete. We cannot allow the enemy to bring solutions for Africans. It should be Africans who comes with African solutions. The Afrikaners, I quote, they have proven that ESCOM is working, ESCOM has been working, and ESCOM is continuing to work. It's only the imperialist system or the imperialist class that controls what it should be controlled. The grip of the electricity that we are getting, the amount of money that we are paying, the blackouts that we are having in this country, all that is being worked on based on the new world order. Down with the new old order down.
Thank you so much, Monique. Down with the old world order, down. Comrade, if you can come to the front and ask your question or make your comment. If there's anyone else who would like to say something, just raise your hand so I can see you. I see you, Comrade Vuyo. I see you. Okay, great. Comrade Vuyo, you're next. And then it's you, Comrade. And then it's you, Comrade. In that order. Thank you.
Thank you. Good day. My question is to the two speakers, Comrade Chim and Comrade Fred, is that when are we going to, when and how as people to make the BRICS popular to the community? Because we can speak in corridors, but the most of our working class, the poor will not know about this because media, most of the time, here, they are in favor of the capitalists. So that's the question to you, when and how, as soon as possible. The second question is the SRWP, because fortunately our competition is she's here. When are we going to be counted? Comrade has mentioned that people are preparing themselves for a GA government. what is our position as the Socialist Revolutionary Party? And what is us? Because she said we should put our differences aside, like the NUMSA constitution. The NUMSA constitution aside and unite us a worker well. And how we could respond to that particular issue, because we are here, but how we make ourselves live and people know us. That's what the media or radio honestly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And very interesting and thought-provoking question. Comrade Jim and Comrade Fred, I'm just going to give you mic so you can answer from here.
Comrades, provocation is a well-tried and tested weapon of counter-revolution. Wherever they are provocative. Even when they are meeting for a summit or to discuss finances, to discuss economic issues, what comes out of there is sanctions against this country, against this leader, stepping up war against this country, against this leader, against these people. Threats are the order of the day, wherever they are. The BRICS meeting is not coming to discuss war. It's not coming to issue threats to anybody. It's coming to discuss how to deal with the problems that affect us today, with the majority of humanity. That's what they are coming to discuss here. They are not coming here to discuss the conflict in Ukraine, the conflict in Yemen, and so on. They are coming here to discuss the problems affecting our people. What are the problems affecting our people today? It's growing poverty, growing inequality, growing unemployment, and also increasing degeneration of the environment. These are what the BRICS leaders are coming to discuss in South Africa in August. What is wrong with this? Who are they threatening? Yes, genuine goodness is always threatening to those on the other side of the moral spectrum. Those who have exploited us for centuries do not want these initiatives. They want to undermine. And they've got their media to do that for them. They have got their own scholars to do that for them. They have got their own politicians to do that for them. And we know who their politicians are. We know who their scholars are. We know who their media is. What is the alternative? We have to have our own media. We have to have our own scholars. We have to have our own politicians and so on. Politicians that represent the best interests of the working people, of the suffering people, of the exploited people. Scholars who side with the masses of our people, who are not for hire by imperialists, by those who want to dominate, exploit the maximum humanity. Trade union leaders who represent the interests of our people, of the toiling masses of our people, whose jobs are threatened every day, whose numbers in employment are diminishing by the day, whose working conditions are not improving, despite the many years of struggle. This is the border I was talking about. We keep on pushing the border. When we're about to arrive at the top of the hill, it rolls down again. For how long are we going to be pushing the same border up the hill and rolling back and starting all over again? We are wise human beings. We can find formulas. Even in soccer, if you are failing to score from a certain position, you try another position. Eventually, the goals will come. We have tried many things, sometimes with their help. The help of the oppressors. That's how generous we have been. That's how accommodating we have been. But the more accommodating we are, the more generous we are with them, the more they abuse us. They are merciless. Their sense of humanity is very low. Look, these are people championing a system that was built on brutality, on colonization of other human beings, on enslavement of other human beings. They still want us to be slaves, to always serve them. They decide what is good for them and we should be at their service. They want a certain world order that benefits them. We should be the ones oil that order, to service that order. Comrades, we cannot construct our future based on other people's yesterdays. We cannot dream about a better life based on other people's past. The future is not built in the future. The future is built on the threshold of what we do today. By sitting in this room today, by having these discussions today, we are building the future. We are making decisions, we are taking actions that have an impact on the future. The future we will have, it will be only the future we ourselves construct. If it has to be beneficial to us. We are dependent on these same people who have oppressed us, abused us, exploited us, humiliated us for centuries. We still want them to, we still hope they can do something better for us. It's an illusion. Build your own institutions. Your parents, your grandparents built institutions. They built the African National Congress and effected the liberation. Yes, it took decades and decades, but in the end it was done. And when it was about to be done in the best way possible, you know what happened in 1990 or prior to 1990. We are learning. The new African should not accept all this. A new type of consciousness is needed. Not because there's no consciousness, but a complex world like the one we're living in today requires new ideas, requires a new, very high level of consciousness. Where that consciousness is going to come from? From what we are doing here, discussing with each other, studying what is around us. An era like the one we are living in requires more principles, more strong principles than ever before. Where are those ideas, those principles going to come from? From the best of our political thinkers, from the best of our revolutionaries. I can even say from the best of our religious thinkers. The world we are seeking today does not only require one thinker. It requires more thinkers. Gone are the days when we are dictated to by one thinker in Washington.
Thank you very much. I do want to submit that to change the balance of forces will require a mobilization of the demonstration you just said when you join me in the song. We would have to link shop floor struggles with community struggles. We would have to make sure that all NUMSA regions shop stewards are not only packed by SRWP branches and NUMSA, but with communities. Comments, there is just no replacement for organizing the organizations of the working. There's a NUMSA organizer who walked in here to ask questions. He's not reading NUMSA resolutions. Any clear plans for that? But I mean, he's asking fundamental questions. He's asking, where are we? What are we going to do? Already the battle lines are drawn. There is a moon pact where there's alignment of forces, where a political party, right from the Nationalist Party, whose replacement of the Nationalist Party in assuming the role of being the political axis of the class that oppress and exploit DA, has already announced that it is ready for elections in 2024. So I am debating, but I should say that we spent time in the SRWP in February in a big council where we pondered, we asked ourselves, how do we build strong branches of the SRWP that take up bread and butter in? NUMSA and National Congress gave us a very difficult task. It has concluded that every shop steward, every NUMSA member must swell the ranks of the SRWP. But it also gave us a very difficult task that we must put together, comrades, a revolutionary agenda. And it said, what we have not won in the base, which is the economy, you can't win it in superstructure, which is politics. And the problem is that elections are around the corner and they are going to continue to be around. So the president of NUMSA, in opening the last NEC, we go to a big central committee in NUMSA that is going to really do a thorough discussion. First, what are the elements of the revolutionary agenda we're talking about? Myself and Comrade Brian, mandated by the CC in the recent past and Comrade President Chibwa, we took a trip to UK in the recent past to meet with COVID. And one of the things we sharply raised in that debate is the crisis we have in South Africa of a liberation that has gone wrong. The point of victory, there were no reparations. There were no reparations. It is the working class that produced wealth, the mining oligarchy, white monopoly capital, exported our wealth at the back of sweat and toil of working class. There were no reparations. Worst of all, there has been no confirmation or affirmation into ownership and control of our people who are economically marginalized, landless, and disposeless into ownership of the South African economy so that we can change power relations. That has not happened. We've got 3 decades. We've got 3 decades of deepening poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. One of the things that the SRWP would have to discuss in its central committee in the coming National Council, one of the things that NUMSA would have to discuss in July now in its central committee, what do we do about 2 things? What do we do about the revolutionary agenda? Who is in the working class formations in this country? We would have listened to COSATU Congress in 2022, if Congress remember. The ANC was not allowed to speak in that place. No, wait a minute, Dash. What you want now? And clap hands for wedding. It was not allowed. And what did we recognize? We recognize that the South African working class, which NUMSA is organizing, and the one in COSATU, it is where NUMSA was in 2013 in its special national congress. And the Central Committee, at least you have taken the decision that it is about time that we must have a revolutionary agenda. It is about time that we must unite the working class. Part of what we are debating, who do we have bilaterals with? About asking a simple question, for instance. Is elections on whose class interest? We want to mobilize the working class, stand in queues, repeat what has happened in the past 3 decades. In fact, the Central Committee of NUMSA says
we must have bilaterals with all affiliates of SAFTU that understand the moment. We must have bilaterals with all COSATU affiliates that understand the movement. We must also meet with the SACP and ask them, what has said SACP you must contest state power? No, comments. That's the system. We must ask the questions. We must also debate and ask the question, what is going to be our article to EFF? I see a Central Tokan. Whenever about one maybe 12. That's when a move from one party one party and who was Marcus Prudy? Can you clap us down and Thomas? And the other must prove No, I'm saying we must debate. Because NUMSA in this discussion says there is no replacement for uniting the working class. Fred is even complicating our case. Because he says the ANC is clearly in a crisis. I can declare the ANC is in a crisis. It lost the local government elections, and everybody is saying what percentage will the ANC achieve. I saw them in Enoch sharing their economic forum, looking at what they pushing the working class and everything else. But it's also true that the ANC constituencies the working class. Not so. No, I'm just saying. There's nothing special. We don't stay in different township because they are wearing green and gold. We are all in township. We are all affected by the miseries of poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. That is the revolutionary agenda. What's behind that? Is the ANC going to plant us with neoliberal policies? Is it going to campaign on the basis of neoliberal agenda? And that we should be, because President Chirwa says, we can't say that the working class, we must not answer. The workers are going to come to us and ask, SRWP, say, vote nobody. Are you contesting election in SRWP? Elections, comrades, are like a casino. You can contest them every now and then. I'm just saying. You can't doubt us. We immediately launched the SRWP in 2019. We went straight elections. Not so. We tested power of the working class. The results were not good. You know that. And quite clear, I'm saying there must be a debate a debate in the SRWP. There must be a debate in NUMSA comment. And NUMSA said we must have bilaterals. Is it the time that we can put together a working class front and an axis that can contest elections? No, I'm asking. And we put up, you might have to keep different logos. Can we clap for different logos? Clearly, there's nobody who can fight with Fred. We can't hand over power to that vicious DA moon-backed. But comrades, we need our land back. We can't vote for you when you have no commitment to bring our land back. Ownership and control of our country's minerals. We can't vote for what? So that we continue to be slaves, as Comrade Fred was explaining. We must have an agenda that all commanding heights of the economy must be in the hands of the people via a democratic state. So I don't think there's somebody there who's sitting comrades who's got grudges and so forth. But what is going to be compromised is a revolutionary agenda, is to make sure that the unity of the working class is sacrosanct behind that revolutionary agenda. And we must defend the working class and pursue the revolutionary agenda. So I'm not answering your question. I'm saying let's go back and debate the question from Amazon.
Indeed, a very, very good question from the Northwest. Can I ask Comrade Will to just come up, please? And there was another gentleman in the middle who was next. Please, can you just come up also? And just be nearby so that you can either make your comment or ask your question, because there's a lot of people who want to comment. Go ahead, Comrade Will.
Thanks very much, Comrade Works. Amanda. My name is Vulu Tupoli. I work for NUMSA in the Jack Charles Presidio region. The state is here in Joburg. So, I wanted to first let appreciate the input. I think it's very rich. The topic itself, even what is happening now, how the onslaught of imperialism in the capital. I don't know, maybe the sound is. Yes, okay. So I wanted to check, without being long, the discussion as you're driving it, it's making me think of Samir Amin's concept of delinking from the, if we're talking of these imperialist financial institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, they have not delivered anything for the masses, and so far as the masses are concerned. If you look very well, all the pillars of the Washington Consensus, trade liberalization, deregulation of markets, everything else they have not reached, has not delivered anything. And if you sharply contrast that with the 10 planks that Karl Marx begins to raise in the Communist Manifesto, it brings the question now of, as we're talking about BRICS, and very interestingly, this concept of delinking, how leadership beyond, because these countries, by and large, the BRICS countries and the countries that are interested in joining, in themselves, there are contradictions that are playing themselves out. Whilst they are, we must appreciate that tactically they are forming a serious front against imperialism, giving the global south a fighting power. But at the very same time, amongst those countries, South Africa, for instance, here, as much as we appreciate the policy of government when it comes to international relations, there are contradictions between labor and capital here. How do we begin just beyond, yes, the BRICS as a first platform, BRICS as a first platform, but how do we begin to shift beyond that so that as the working class ourselves, we actually can deliver something? They are starting a process. And I want to drive the question further to say, amongst the BRICS countries, where now, for instance, leadership can we point and say, these are our challenges? And I would say that there is an interesting case, for instance, China, despite any contradictions that you might talk of in terms of the socialism with Chinese characteristics. But the reality of that country, as we speak, they have managed to lift 850 million people out of poverty, or absolute poverty, as we know. And there is key drivers in terms of health and other things. So if we were to look for model, very interestingly amongst ourselves, where do we begin the conversation? But beyond that, the state actors, how does the working class, the ordinary masses, trade unions, your movements, and all sorts of working class formations, how can they tie up so that they buffer whatever this state, these people of the governments that we have are beginning? Thanks very much.
Excellent question. Before you answer comments, I just want to, are you comrades going to ask a question or a comment?
Yeah.
Please come, because I think we can try and answer more. Yeah?
Comrades, it's clear that the African National Congress is taking us nowhere. When I look back with a sorrow. Remember all the days that have been happening, you're happening and all those up until now. I am a community member. I'm affected by the COVID-19, work for one of the big kind of a company, Anglo-American F-55 Marshals. My file is still with HSBS there at the 6th floor. Now maybe they were getting a treatment. Now, I want to be short and precisely to the question, Jim. Where have you been? Where was SWP, a Socialist Party, in all along? What did you achieve and what did you do? Come up from your research. Not being it's a seat in the previous election. Why are we towards the election and started now mushrooming? And what is at the same time the position of the community? The community members. So where is now our role? Because I feel you are excluded as far as the whole thing is concerned. I hear you mention about community members and all those things. But the problem is totally not that expand compared than what you call the workers, understand? So that's my question.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the speakers, Comrade Jim. I don't know if you'd also like to answer Comrade Fred. Okay, thank you. And then we will take the other comments.
So, I think that comment say where it is not, it's no branch. He's making a clarion call that it's not the, which word do you stay in?
I'm from Zakaria Park, I'm speaking close.
Where?
Zakaria Park.
Zakaria Park.
I don't know how do you.
Is there any branch from Zakaria Park here? Okay, you must go there and organize Zakaria Park. Can you clap hands for organizing Zakaria? There's a call for a branch, and the comment is asking, where have you been? Why did you get a seat in the last elections? And it's very clear that he doesn't think the ANC is going to take us anywhere. That's an emphatic statement that he has made. Wilton is giving us a very difficult question. First, I think in my earlier input, I would have raised that nature does not allow a virtue. It's not for the first time BRICS and BRICS countries are meeting. And we would be lying if we say that has not been a contested terrain. I made a submission that it has been, even BRICS is being contested to keep the current status quo. In my input, I made a call that BRICS meeting that is coming, it should be breaking new ground from moving away from a failed neoliberal agenda, from a failed Washington consensus. And we're starting a process and a debate, and we must be asking hard questions. If we are going to be the host, how must we organize ourselves? How do we make sure that we make BRICS a theater of struggling in pursuit of a revolutionary program that can develop our people, that can develop the continent, that can be an alignment for all BRICS countries to work together for people of the South, and we must make sure that we fight for that. So it's not something we can sit in a room and say it's going to happen if we do not. We know that countries that participate in BRICS, you can categorize them in different ways. There are progressive countries like China that have taken measures with a state that intervenes in the economy. But you can't say the same about our state. Our state is driving a neoliberal program. Our state is driving austerity measures. We need a state that must go for an expansionary budget. We need a state that must intervene in the economy. We need a state that must work with us to drive a revolutionary program in line with what we are unpacking here too. So that's a struggle. But it also means that there is nothing stopping NUMSA to basically call government departments that are going to participate in that process and say, we want to have an engagement with what are you going to say in BRICS. There should be nothing about us without us. So that's a struggle. So we might have to campaign, and I'm saying, I think today we're opening up a debate. But what was the entry point in the entry point in the debate is that if there's one thing that has engulfed us, which is destroying everything for the people of the globe, it's war. I'm saying one of the things that must end is that war. But also we must be arguing and debating what must be the revolutionary agenda that must occupy BRICS away from Washington consensus. So I don't think there are conclusions. We're saying let's open up a debate, let's organize ourselves, let's begin to ask hard questions. Which sides of power must we target to ensure that we influence that program? What parallel debates and discussion we can have parallel to BRICS that is taking place so that the voice and the influence of the working class is heard. Thank you very much.
Comrade over there, you can also just ready yourself. Oh, sorry, before my friend has to respond.
I'll address the question from Comrade Boyo. What are we to learn from China? Yes, every path is different. China's path is different from our path. Our history is different from that of China. As I said earlier, we should not try to decorate our tomorrows with other people's yesterdays, including China's yesterdays. But there are lessons that we can learn from China. One is China has the Communist Party of China. They have a Communist Party. China is what it is because of the Communist Party of China. If it wasn't for the Communist Party of China being a Communist Party, China would not be what it is. Two, since 1949, China has never been a colony or a neo-colony. China maintained its independence, its sovereignty. The decisions made in China were made by China, were made by the Communist Party. Wrong or right? They were not made by chief executives or chairmen of transnational corporations. China was not led by the private sector. Managing directors of companies deciding what the Communist Party should do. The Communist Party decided what the managing directors of private companies in China, operating in China, should do in China or with China. 95% of the Chinese economy is state-owned. It is state-owned. The private sector in China does not do what it wants. It does what the CPC wants it to do. You can go and set up a business in China today. You will not do what you want to do in China. You will make your money, you will become a billionaire, but under what the CPC wants you to do, in line with the programs of the Communist Party. The achievements that you see in China is because of the pursuit of socialism with the Chinese characteristics. That's what the Chinese Communist Party tells us, and that's what is on the ground if you go to China. The prestige of the CPC in China is very high. is very high. It is not a state controlled by transnational corporations. It is a state controlled by the Communist Party, uniting the Chinese people in this struggle. We have that here. We have that elsewhere on our continent. The answer is a categorical no. Zambia is still controlled by transnational corporations. It was colonized by a transnational corporation, the BSA, which was taken over by Anglo later. Direct rule of a company from 1891 to 1924, ruled by a company whose owner stayed in Cape Town, and he was the prime minister of the Cape Colony. When he colonized Zambia in 1891, he was Cecil Rhodes, was in Cape Town, was the prime minister of Cape Colony. In 1889, he colonized what is now Zimbabwe. An individual ruled the territory called Zambia today for 33 years. When we got our independence, they still continued to do the same. The same influence. They have that influence today. Today, they are even deciding who should be the president of Zambia. Anglo-American. And they got a president. And they are very excited with that victory. They think they can replicate it in Zimbabwe with Chamisa. They think they can replicate it in Uganda with Bobi Wine. They think they can replicate it here with the DA. Can they do that in China? No. Even Jack Ma, a billionaire, who is a member of the Communist Party of China, because of the little billions he had, he thought he could maneuver. They put him in his place. Yes. China allows you to be a billionaire. They need private capital for now in the stage of in their stage of development. But private capital does not control China. Billionaires, millionaires don't control China. Can we say the same here?
Comrades, we are running out of time, so I'm going to only allow those people that I had identified to make their comments and questions quickly, because we do have to wrap up. Unfortunately, 12:30 will be the time when we leave. Comrade, if you can come up, please. Please also ready yourself over there, Comrade, for your comment. Thank you.
Indeed, we can learn some things from China. When Russia invaded Ukraine, the US imposed a series of sanctions. Russian banks were kicked out of SWIFT system, paralyzing its financial sector. The world uses SWIFT international payment network to pay for practically everything. Every day, $5 trillion get transferred across the world using the system. So being excluded from SWIFT means not being able to conduct cross-border transactions. From learning this, China started working hard to nationalize their currency. China then created and launched its own system called CIPS, cross-border interbank payment system, as an alternative to the SWIFT system, in order to protect its financial sector. So CIPS is now ranked the 5th international cross-border payment. This is some of the strategies that we must formulate as the African continent in order to be in control and independent from Europe and America. Should they withdraw or try to sanction us? So the African continent must stop relying on the Western and American. We must counter them we must come with alternatives to benefit and protect our beautiful continent. Thank you.
Very interesting input, Comrade. If you can come up, please, to make your comment or your question. Thank you.
Amanda, how are you? Thank you for the platform. I'm going to very quick. The only issue that we are having is like we're always going to the drawing board. We are always planning without implementation. That is the first key that we are losing this battle on. When there is a crisis, we are going to the drawing board, we are going to discuss, no implementation. There was once an idea of uniting Africa, having a borderless Africa, also having one currency as African. What happened to that? Another issue that we are having is we are having an issue of young people not wanting to be involved in communities, of serious issues that are affecting us. Unemployment, pregnancy, drugs, all those things are starting in the households because of we are not having prominent leaders in our communities that are going to have a prominent way of indulging our people. We are in this crisis now that we are still having people that say that who is better than who. Ngulua, I would also like to give you a challenge to say, why can't we launch a youth wing in the SWRP? Why can't we have a youth wing? Because young people are the leaders of tomorrow. Without us, I don't think there's any ship that can move. So now, to say, let's try and launch and get as young people. It's about time that now we take a step of saying enough is enough. Because what is happening currently in South Africa is because we have allowed this thing to happen. So it's about time that now we need to stand up and rise and say enough is enough. These things of planning and always going to the drawing board, I'm sure even the chalk is running dry in the box. We need to implement. We need to start implementation. Thank you.
Well, go on all day, and I know there are people who are desperate to get input. I'm so sorry, I have to close the session for me. I have to close it. But what it means is that we have to do more of these. It's clear that the people are hungry for more of these engagements, and we must deliver. So, comrades, I want to thank you, every single one of you, for coming here today, for coming on this cold day to engage us and to engage on this very important question of the BRICS Summit and what it means for us as the Global South. And also, of course, a special thank you to Comrade Fred, who flew all the way from Zambia to actually participate in this discussion. Thank you so much, Comrade. We really appreciate your input. And we want to thank our leader, Comrade Irvin, the General Secretary of NUMSA, also for making the time for this input, and who also made the promise on this platform that we would do this every week. And personally, I'm very excited. So, comrades, thank you very much. After this, we are going to have lunch. We catered for all of you for lunch, so please stick around for lunch. Thank you so much, comrades.